Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me again here in the studio with me, Darius. Y'all, I'm so grateful for the support that you guys are giving this channel, giving this content. And if you love it, if you are being blessed by it, please subscribe to this channel, share this channel. I would love to interact with you guys, comment, hit me up on social media. And, but yeah, tell people about it. This is a space where we talk to other creatives about everything in the studio, but beyond, just life. We talk about good character. We talk about spirituality. We talk about everything. And I just want you guys to be blessed by this content. So again, please like, share, and subscribe this channel. And today I have a special guest. This person has known me my whole life, my whole life. And we're going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm sure it's going to be stuff that I don't even know about myself. He may not. Y'all, give it up for my friend, my brother, and kind of like my uncle too, Earl Orr.
Okay. What's happening?
What's up, Earl? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm honored to be here, that you wanted to have a conversation with me.
Yeah, man. Now, you know, you've always been somebody who has been close to my life, and you know, I've looked up to you since I was a little boy, because you were one of the first people I seen playing drums.
I had no clue.
Yeah,
Unity Temple only had 5 drummers in my time going there. So it was your uncle Keith Staten.
Yep.
I believe Mark is your uncle too, right?
Yeah. Well, he's my cousin. He's my cousin. Yeah.
That's right. So your cousin Mark Staten.
Yep.
They were the original drummers of Unity Temple.
Right.
A lot of people don't know Keith Staten is a drummer.
He is.
As well. Then Commisioned happened. Mark just wasn't there anymore. And then, I'm sorry, I'm remiss. It was Keith, Mark, and Carl Reed. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know. I found out recently that he played drums, but I didn't know he played at Unity. He played at Unity. He was the low-key third drummer. Okay.
But the main two were Mark and Keith.
Okay.
And of course, when Keith was singing, Mark was on the drums.
Right.
So those were the 3 drummers. Then Commission happened, so that took out 2 of the drummers, and then Mark wasn't there anymore. And then Michael, your uncle Michael,
Uncle Mike, took
over. Because we had this stipulation at church, you had to be saved.
Yeah, filled with the Holy Ghost.
Filled with the Holy Ghost. And everybody at Unity Temple, they was basically getting the Holy Ghost at 1.5. And I was late in the part, coming in at 16. Yeah. So then Mike was the main drummer for a while. And then I got saved, accepted Christ. And then Mike and I were the drummers. And then Mike started migrating back to the soundboard. Then it was just like me and Mike, your cousin Lloyd, your cousin Horace, and my dad on guitar, and Daddy Dew.
Man.
Daddy Dew on sax.
Oh, yes.
That was my guy.
And that's really like my earliest memories of, for those of you who don't know, we're talking about Unity Temple of the Apostolic Faith.
And who was the pastor?
The pastor was Bishop Gaston Staten Sr., my grandfather.
Was your grandfather.
Yes, he founded.
As well, what's funny, so my family is one of the founding families of that church.
Right.
I remember your grandfather being Elder Staten.
Yep.
And then he was District Elder Staten.
Yes, he was.
And then he's Bishop Staten.
Yeah.
So I saw the whole thing happen. And then you came along, you and Brian came along. Your mom was a magnificent singer and just an all-around good person.
Yeah.
And it was, we missed her when she transitioned. That was a blow.
Yeah.
But I remember you and your little brother running around, and then your mom's remarried and took it on out to Portland, and I ain't see you no more. And next time I know you was on bongos. I'm like, what's going on?
Right. Like, what happened?
He playing for Fred and everything.
I know, right? Man, look, we gonna get into all that.
Yeah, go ahead.
But man, listen, so my earliest memories of just being a musician and being enamored with music obviously started at Unity. Seeing that orange sparkle drum kit
Slingerland.
Slingerland.
Pearl snare.
Man.
Speed King pedal.
I'm telling you, man, I would never that image of that drum kit will forever be in my mind. I cannot get it out.
It's where it all started for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's where it started for you. Mm-hmm.
So you talked about some of the people who are playing in the band at Unity. And
Yes.
and your dad, was he a deacon?
No, my dad was not a deacon or a trustee. He was a Sunday school teacher.
Okay.
And then my mother was the Sunday school secretary.
Okay.
So we were always at church.
Yeah.
And we were always there early because my parents were like these people. We got on time is late.
Right.
So
right.
I'm always there with the janitor opening the door or something.
Right. Right. But your dad was the guitar player.
He was the guitar player.
And
Pops was a hobbyist, but
Okay.
he could play a little bit.
Yeah. I remember the guitar. I'm not sure what it looked like a Les Paul, but I'm not sure. What was it?
Do you remember what color it was?
All I remember, it had like the B.B. King neck on it. That's all I remember.
So my dad had 3 guitars.
Okay.
He had a black Les Paul. He had a what's that? The 355 like B.B. King.
Mm-hmm.
He had one of those, and he had a solid body Les Paul that was cream color.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you some history. If you've been to face to face is no longer
Right.
You've been to the warehouse lately.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you see a cream colored Les Paul sitting there,
Yeah.
that's my dad's.
I knew that. I knew that.
I had sold it to Fred years ago.
I remember that.
Yep. So I wasn't using it, and I wanted to go somewhere where somebody was using it that I know would use it, and so I sold it to him, and he told me it was on one of the records.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been on more than what he told me, but he told me was that If You Ever Needed the Lord right now. He told me it was on that record. So
yeah, man.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like so what was it like in your household that gravitated you to want to play drums and to be involved in music?
Great question. So my household, gospel records, Aretha Franklin, Hawkins Family, Andre Crouch, Charles Fold singers, all of that.
Yeah.
Dad had guitars all the time in the house. It never interests me. I would pick it up and do a little something, and it's like never. Music did not interest me.
Okay.
One Sunday, my mother sat on the left side, on the band side, or the choir stand side back then. And you remember the drums used to be lined up in the front.
Right.
It was the organ, the drums, and the piano was on the other side.
Yeah.
And I would be in view of Keith every Sunday, and I would just look, nothing. Then one Sunday, man, you remember the Blues Brothers?
Yeah.
When they was standing in the back of the church?
Yes.
He said, the band. That's how it happened for me.
Wow.
All of a sudden, it was like drums.
Wow.
And I was just at that point, every Sunday, I would just be mesmerized by him playing, like all of that was just like, I got to do that.
Yeah.
So I started bugging my parents, buy me a drum set. And they was like, where is this coming from? Then I would go up to Keith, hey, can you show me how you did such and such? And he'd be like, yeah, come here. And he'd show me. And I bugged my parents to give me a drum set. So long and short, they bought me a 3-piece kit. So back then, that was like the starter kit. You get one tom, bass drum, snare. And then they bought a hi-hat and one cymbal. So they figured, if I fall off, they didn't invest a whole bunch of money.
Right.
And they said, well, you keep playing this, we'll get you another tom-tom. So I kept playing, and I kept bugging them, like, I want that other tom-tom.
Yeah.
So then I got a floor tom. Then Dad would go to the pawn shop, Ziedman's up on Gratiot, because that's where he would get his guitars.
Right, okay.
And he found me this tom-tom that was like, it didn't even match. It was like, I had a red sparkle, then I had like what you see above me over here.
Right.
It was a drum like that.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I put it on there. It was a 9x13. I had my 8x12, and that's when I started playing drums.
Man.
And most of it is by ear. Because I wasn't allowed at the time to play in church, I would just go home and listen to the radio, and I would go up and down the dial.
Wow.
I'd be on the pop station. I learned Madonna and all of that. Yeah. Then I go to WGPR, the funk station, and learn Parliament and Gap Band and all that. I stop at WRIF, the Riff, learn some rock songs. And then I was getting older, so I was getting a little allowance or whatever, and I would go into the record store and buy tapes, and I would sneak because I would be buying like jazz or stuff I wasn't supposed to have.
Right.
Like my dad did buy. My dad bought me 2 albums when I first started playing. He bought me a Billy Cobham album.
Okay.
And he bought me a Max Roach album. The Max Roach, both of them for a 9-year-old just starting to play was like.
Yeah, complex, very complex, yeah.
And it was 2 opposite guys. You got Max Roach playing from the top down, you know, hi-hat, ride cymbal, you're blazing. And that was just like, I couldn't understand, like, where's the backbeat?
Right.
And then Cobham, he got this massive kit and you're like, oh man, all I got is one tom.
Right.
You know, I can't do all that. So as I just kept, that's how I taught myself to play. And then my parents sent me to lessons. And this is before your time. We used to have a music store chain in Detroit called Grinnell's.
Okay.
And I would go to Grinnell's for lessons. This was the one at Macomb Mall. And my first teacher, her name was Carol. She had a Rogers 8-piece kit.
Nice.
With all the toms.
Wow.
So every time I would go to drum lesson, before we just do all this little snare drum stuff, I would do the riff from Brick House. Because she had all the toms.
She had all the tones.
She had all the toms. So I took formal lessons and I learned how to read.
Wow. Oh, sweet.
And all of that. Yeah, I can read, but I mean, you know, and the thing that we were doing just wasn't required. So I would do band competitions at school. All of this stuff I was doing from middle school all the way through high school. Because, like I say, I wasn't playing at church. So I was doing stuff at, you know, school programs and whatever competitions we had, I would do. And then when I did finally come into playing in church, my palette was a little broader.
Right.
Because a lot of the guys at that time weren't listening to nothing else.
Yeah.
So their approach was only one approach. Well, you know, just listening to gospel. Because in all of that, listening to the radio up and down, I was still listening to them Hawkins Family records with Joel Smith. Of course, I was listening to those Winans albums with Bill Maxwell.
Yes, sir.
And then Commisioned came on the scene, and like Mike Williams.
Yeah. Mike.
When I first heard Mike Williams, that I'm Going On album was my Bible. And another thing was Twinkie Clark. When she was doing her solo stuff, the stuff with Power and all of that, Old Zion.
Yeah.
Those albums were very intricate in my coming up. The Matty Moss choir albums. Those are the things I was listening to because at that point I was trying to find anything Mike Williams was on.
Yeah.
Because he was just so crispy and clean.
Very.
And then,
absolutely.
So when we were coming up, Michael Williams and Joey Bruce.
Shout out to Joey Bruce.
Shout out to Joe Bruce and a shout out to Dana Davis.
Yes, sir.
Those were the Trinity, no disrespect.
Yeah, right.
For drummers in Detroit.
Absolutely.
You know,
for sure.
100. So
that's awesome.
That's how I got started, man.
Man, so you mentioned playing in school. What high school did you go to?
I went to Kettering.
Okay, I'm not sure where that's at.
East side. It's on Van Dyke and 94. It's torn down now.
Okay.
Yep, that's where I went. I was in marching band, stage band, orchestra.
Okay.
Any band they had, I was in it.
Yeah.
Orchestra, I was playing timpanis and snare drum.
Yeah.
Yep. And since I had to read. So that's why my parents sent me to lessons.
Yeah.
And then in stage band, we were doing like Stevie Wonder and stuff like that.
Right.
And then in marching band, we were doing whatever the hot song was at the time. It was whatever hip hop. This is gonna take it back because I got out in '87. We did. You remember Run DMC is like that? Yeah. And that's dope. Yeah. So we did that, and so of course all that's drum heavy.
Yep.
So I played snare drum and bass drum. So
man, I didn't know how deep you went into like your formal studies.
Yeah, I went in a little bit.
Yeah. So what I do remember is knowing that you brought a little bit something different than the other people I would see playing at church. And mainly it was you there playing for the most part when I was really young.
Yeah.
But you had something else in your bag, you know?
And that's what it was, because if they say, well, let's play it like a rock vibe. Well, I was listening to Van Halen.
Right, yeah.
So I knew how to play. It wasn't a vibe. I'm going to play rock.
Right.
So
right.
It was going to be authentic. And my teachers would teach me, like, okay, this is how you play this style.
Yeah.
I had another teacher. There was a music store. It was a famous music store. If you're an old head in Detroit, you know it. It was called Gus Zoppe's Music. And it was on 8 Mile, like on the east side, down by the Armory and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where, just to give you some history, Bootsy had his star bass hanging up there. The guy who built his bass worked at that store.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I had a teacher. He was like a cool little hippie guy and had one cigarette hanging out his mouth. And the room was about as wide as this screen.
Yeah.
Had a little drum set in there. So we would go over rudiments, but what he would teach me was feel.
Yeah.
Like, so he would put on Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. He would play a lot of classic rock style. He was a Caucasian gentleman. So
yeah.
I was getting a lot from that side. And all of that stuff was helping me for later, which I didn't know. Because to be honest, I really didn't fit in with the gospel guys.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't playing just gospel. Whereas their concentration was that, and they honed that, I didn't hone that specifically.
Right.
You know, and I was doing, even as a kid. So your Daddy Dew is your uncle, right?
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So Edgar Dew, we call him Daddy Dew.
Absolutely.
He was our saxophone player at the church, but he was the only one that he said, come here, tell your daddy bring you by my house. And he would go over my lessons with me. He would teach me stuff outside of drums.
Yeah.
He would take me on gigs because he was always getting hired to play for receptions and all of that. He was the first person that started paying me to play drums.
Oh, wow.
And so even though I wasn't playing in church, I was playing with him. And he would take me to these, whatever events, because most of them was at a church in the back. And I would play gigs with him. But Daddy Dew would play a lot of jazz stuff. So he would play a hymn, but he would play it in swing.
Absolutely.
So that's how I learned swing. I got I learned swing in my lessons as well. But I remember one day I went over to Daddy Dew's house. I was young. I didn't know who John Coltrane was.
Oh, wow.
This man was down there playing a Love Supreme verbatim and charting it at the same time.
Wow.
But only reason why people don't know who Edgar Dew is because he was just 100% dedicated to playing for the Lord, which I respect. But that man was as good as Coltrane, Miles Davis, Cannonball Adderley. He was on that level. And I don't think he ever got the respect he deserved.
That's so true.
That was my guy.
And I wanted us to have a time to honor him on this episode, because like you, he is one of my first influences in music, period. Like, to paint the picture, like, you would go into his basement. This man
music room
had a guitar center in his basement.
He did.
He had xylophones, marimbas, wind instruments, guitars.
He played every wind.
It was amazing to see. And as he got older, I mean, it didn't change. He was always that guy, and he always had his door open. You had the opportunity to learn whatever you wanted to learn. Yeah. And he was willing to teach you. And
he was giving it away.
He was.
He said, hey, come on in here. And I used to go to his house. You only know the Southfield house.
Right. The two of them. I remember the house before the Southfield house, too.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if you remember that. But I used to go to that first one.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Southfield. And I would be in that basement. And I just be soaking up everything he's talking about. And it's a lot of times it had nothing to do with music or drums.
Right.
One of the greatest lessons that man ever taught me, he was our Sunday school teacher too.
Yeah.
And I say this to this day. I think I just said it last week. It said, I point one finger at you, but I got 3 pointing back at me. He would say that all the time. And it was just about accountability with him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every time I would have a conversation with him, like once I started getting into touring and traveling a lot,
Yes.
if I interacted with him at his house, he would always make sure of how I'm doing with my relationship with God. Always. Because that was paramount. That was the only thing that really mattered. And I'm glad that he did that, because it's just foundational just to impart that into us like he did. Like the talent is great. All that stuff is great. But how are you really doing?
Yeah. Yeah. He cared.
Yeah.
And in his later years, after I moved down here in North Carolina, I would call him every so often, and I would tell him, because I wanted him to know before he left here of how much he impacted me. And I told him, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have kept doing this, because I wasn't, outside of my parents, I wasn't getting any inspiration to do it, because everybody's more concerned about, well, you ain't speaking in tongues. You know,
man, it's funny, man. I could relate to that, because when we moved to Portland, you know, we just went from one apostolic church to another.
Exactly.
Different organization, but same denomination, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Like, what do you do with talent from young people who, you know, who ain't got the Holy Ghost yet, but they clearly have talent and want to use it to serve God and to praise God. So I sat on the sidelines for a while, because I was like, I was 17 before, you know, I was filled with the Holy Ghost.
Oh wow! So you can relate, like,
can relate,
big time.
Yeah. But I remember vividly after that being in service, and this is when I was really getting into percussion. Like, you know, like nobody else was playing congas and bongos and all that kind of stuff.
No, it was one guy in Detroit back in the day. He used to play with Commisioned. His name was Scotty.
Scotty. Oh man.
That was the percussion guy. But I knew two people in Detroit, Scotty and this guy named Sean, who used to go to Perfecting.
Okay.
And he played percussion. But and one of the Whitset brothers. Other than that,
Mark Whitset.
It was Mark. It was only three guys that played percussion in Detroit. That was a niche. It's
funny, man. Like I can remember as a kid watching the Commisioned concerts and seeing Scotty playing, and he didn't even really have like a rig. He was just kind of like sitting on the drum,
sitting on the edge of the riser,
and he would pick up a kabasa. He would pick up a cowbell. He may play some bongo, but I remember that, man. Like, that's interesting.
Like, what is that guy doing?
Right.
What is he doing?
Yeah, man, little stuff like that. And I'll tell you another thing, man. Growing up there, I remember, and I'm sure you probably had this as well. I remember Uncle Mike bringing home this electronic drum set. And it was this octagon pads, like hard. They was super hard. But I was so intrigued. I'm like, what is this thing?
How about I bought those off of Mike? And they were originally, okay, here we go, drum roll. They were originally Mike Williams.
Okay. That makes sense.
From the
yeah,
from Learn to Pray.
See,
I kept those a long time. I had the whole kit. It had a bass drum. It had a brain.
Yeah.
It was a Tama. The brain was like this big. It was huge.
Wow. Man, that's crazy, man. See, people who don't really like know my history, like they know I'm like related to Fred, but I'm like, no, y'all don't understand. Like I remember when Commisioned was rehearsing in my grandparents' basement. Like, I remember when Uncle Keith brought the first LP home. Like, I was little. I was like 5 years old, but I remember that.
But you remember that stuff. Yeah. Those were some good old days. Those guys in the studio. Now, I don't know how I missed this, but for some reason, I have never been in the studio when they recorded. Okay. The one time I was there, I went up there to catch him, and Fred was up there by himself. And he was mixing, what's that song? You're the one for me.
Oh, yeah.
He was mixing that. He was just sitting there at the desk, and he had this little piano part. I could still hear it, that he he pushed it up and pulled it back down. I was there for about 30 minutes and saw that.
Yeah.
But my two best friends, Mike and Tony, your uncle, and my boy Tony Striggles, rest in peace.
Yeah,
that's his
Tony
hat right
Striggles,
there, by
man.
the way. I had to put his hat up. So
There
anyway, they were roadies.
They were.
And Striggs and Mike, so Yash would make these tapes, and he would leave them on the that back desk back there, because you've been up there, and for them to take with them so they could listen back. So Striggs would spend the whole day up there, doing gopher stuff, going to Vans, getting Coney and whatever.
Yep.
And then at the end of the session, Yash started putting tapes up. Then Tony would discreetly take a tape. And then he'll call me, hey, man, I'm going to come get you, man. You got to hear this, man. It's killing.
Right.
And so we listening to Go Tell Somebody and all of those records.
Right.
Every album we had pre-production tapes,
man,
because of Striggs.
Dog, that is crazy.
And then on Friday nights at church, your Uncle Keith would say, hey, man, come to my car. We go out to his Honda, and he'll play something. I remember that from Go Tell Somebody.
Wow.
I said, because Go Tell Somebody was so drastically different from I'm Going On.
It was way more polished, man.
It was way more polished. Because at that time, I think they had moved from RMJ to Studio A.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's y'all? Wow.
Yeah.
And then to hear somebody I know on a record was just like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about Keith and the guys coming to your grandfather's basement, and there were times that I used to work down at the church as a janitor. So this was around the Winning Side album run. They would rehearse there. And so I would turn on the PA or whatever, and of course put a tape in.
Of course. Got to do that.
And I wouldn't call it running sound, because the mixer up there wasn't really.
Right.
You just push the faders up.
Right.
And they say, oh, can you give me some more? Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Less of this. But so they were rehearsing the show, and I watched them develop a show. I watched them literally write the vamps for How You Bless Me, Jesus. What's that one? Only What You Do for Christ Will Last.
Yep.
I was sitting there when there was no words to that. They was just making these melodies up, and then they just start adding words.
Wow.
And Michael Williams was playing the Orange Boys. He didn't bring nothing. I think he maybe brought a snare, maybe. Brooks would be on the Kawhi piano, and he would put his D50 on top. Fred plug into his bass amp.
Wow.
The church bass amp. That was it. It was no extra gear. It wasn't we running stems, and no, it wasn't none of that back then. It was just straight microphones, and there wasn't no additional musicians. It was all the guys on the album cover.
Yeah.
And those rehearsals, I had tapes of them that I've lost them, but those rehearsals used to be rocking. And just to hear them go from that and then go to a show and hear it wow. Y'all, I was there when they made that up. But a lot of their stuff was just Mitch and Fred would just sit there and just start humming melodies. What we gonna do here? We got to make a vamp, and then they would just make something up. And at first, it just sounded just like that. It sounded made up, oh, that ain't gonna be sweet. But then you you bless me once, you bless me twice. I was there when they made that up. Bless me all my life. I was like, oh, I don't know. And then once it all got glued together, I was like, oh God, that's sweet.
Man, I remember going to commission shows as a kid, especially once I moved to Portland. Whenever they would come up to Portland, up to Seattle, anywhere in the area, we were going, right?
Yep.
But to hear those remix vamps
that
never really got recorded, that you can't find that stuff. I mean,
I sent you that stuff.
You did, and thank you for that. It's amazing.
I got a box full of mini disc over here.
Man, look, but for the masses, people have never heard that stuff until now. YouTube now, it's a lot more commission content, resurfacing.
It is. And then the fact that they went out on tour in 19 but they never revived those vamps. They just made new ones.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but the thing is, you got a better show. You got better commission shows if you went out if you saw them on the road.
Yeah.
I went out with them one time. We went to Wellesley College. That was a nightmare trip because that was my first tour bus ride. It was a turnaround. We were just going and come right back. And they were like, you can't do number 2 on the bus. Just number 1.
Right.
Okay. So we stopped on the way there, go to McDonald's. I ate. It was great. 1 hour later, my stomach was tore up. But anyway, they went to Wesley College. And if I recall, Brooks was sick. He had like the flu.
Oh, wow.
He's literally, it was like a Michael Jordan flu game. He literally was hanging off the keyboard. When I tell you they rocked the place, I had never seen a commission concert like that. I was like, these dudes play better on the road. I mean, and it was the guys on, again, just the guys on the cover. Wasn't no additional guitar player, wasn't no aux keyboard, nothing. It was just 3 musicians, you know, killing.
Dang.
Yeah, it was something to see, and I wish I could have recorded it, but you know, we didn't back then. We didn't have that popping off. But it was a college kids. The place was full to the back. You know how them old auditoriums have those big tall windows, but the window sill be real deep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was kids standing in all the window seats.
Dang.
That's how packed it was.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. It was a small venue, but it was way more people in there, and you could feel the floor. And I'm standing backstage, and you could feel the floor moving. That's how hard them guys. They played that night like they weren't gonna play no more.
They were a for real rock band. Like
they
not
were
playing rock
ferocious
music. I'm saying they were like Like you talk about that groundswell, that anticipation, that you could just feel the tension. Like and I felt that tension.
Yeah,
on that
that's why I say you got a better show.
The commission.
Oh, did you? I was there for that. I worked on that show,
bro. I know, and we gonna get to that. But I know how that feels. That anticipation, it's crazy. But before we get there, like so, at this time in your life when you're observing all this stuff, like seeing Commisioned and their growth and development, like where are you? Like after high school, what's going on with your musical career, or was you even thinking about a musical career at that point?
That's all I was thinking about. So after high school, I was doing gigs with a buddy of mine named Marvin Thompson Jr.
Okay.
Jazz prodigy kid. I met him at Young Artists for Christ. So Marvin, for you don't know the name, is, if you heard Perfecting Church's first choir record, he's the pianist.
Okay.
And you get to really hear him when they do the solos at the end. But Marty and I, we would gig across the city, little holes in the wall, do little church things here and there. I met him at Young Artists for Christ, which was Michael Brooks's music workshop. So I did that I did Yak for like 2 years. The first year, I didn't get to play. I had a rude awakening. Yak was great for me because, so at the time I was still going to Unity, and I could play. I'm not, holding you up on that.
Yeah. No, you
and I may have been.
You was the guy.
I was kind of the guy in the small pond. Yeah. We had that little organization, and a lot of guys weren't, as committed as I am. I'm not ranking on nobody, but I'm thinking I'm that guy.
Right.
And I get there, and that's when I meet Dana for the first time. Well, no, that wasn't the first time because I took lessons from Dana before that. But I get in that environment, and I learn that I didn't have everything. Okay. So I didn't get to play on the recording. I was upset, but I went home and figured out what it is I didn't have. And I practiced. I said, next year I'm getting on that album.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
So that whole year I was like just tightening up some stuff. And then next year, because she had an award for most improved musician and whatever.
Okay.
I won that award, and I got on that album. And it was a song called I'm Saved. That's the first time I've ever recorded anything.
Okay.
Outside of my tape recorder in the basement, the house.
Nice.
So I did that. So I was just really just gigging around. And I was was I playing at a church? Yes, I was playing at a church. And then, you know, I had got married, life happened, and I said, I got to start making some bread. So I went to the Army.
Yeah.
Went to the Army, and even in the Army, I was playing at a church. At that time, I was, you know, I went from not being saved to like super saved. So I wasn't playing in no clubs. Right. Like even the stuff I was doing with Marty back home was just like little, it wasn't the club, you know, it was safe stuff.
Right.
So, it was in the Army is when I first heard RFC, Inner Court.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what in the world?
And where were you stationed?
Alaska.
I remember that.
Anchorage.
I remember
Alaska. That. And this is pre-internet. Like,
right.
I mean, AOL was out, but it wasn't like now. Like,
right.
I'm talking to you from somewhere, you're way away from me, and we feel like we're right here. So when you live in Alaska, you just feel so isolated.
Yeah. So
my only taste of home was, you know, if I called home with like once a month, because back then that was like long distance. You was writing letters.
Yeah.
And but when that album came out, I felt like I was back over there on Hilltop.
Yes, sir.
Because that's where we all hung out. And I was like, man, I got to get back home. I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
So long or short, I finished my my commitment with the military. I come back, and it was a learning curve again because I was active before I left, but I wasn't as active. So I started playing at my church again, and I had one Sunday I was playing, like the first or two Sundays back. All of a sudden, my hand just went like this and wouldn't close.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? So I had to really start shedding to get myself back to where I was. And then a year after I get out, I actually am playing at the Pages of Life recording.
Man. Okay, this is a great segue because I also wanted to take some time to honor our friend and brother who has passed on, Marvin McQuitty.
Marvin McQuitty.
Marvelous
Marv.
Yes, Marvin is a great mentor to us both. And
for sure.
So just walk us through, man. Tell us about how you came to be in relationship with Marvin and even getting a chance to play at that Pages of Life recording. How did that all happen?
So I met Marvin also at Young Artists for Christ.
Okay.
So Young Artists for Christ, I met a lot of guys that, because you know, in our organization, we were kind of isolated. So when I went to Young Artists for Christ, I met Volley Craig,
nice.
Rest in peace, Marvin Thompson. I just met a bunch of people. Earl Wright, you know, all these people. So after Young Artists for Christ, he and I just, you know, stayed friends. And it's just for context. Everybody needs to know, like, say Face to Face was like where we went. That was like our soda shop after school, so to speak.
Yeah.
So Marvin worked at Face to Face. So like every day of your life, you would wake up, you go to work, kiss your babies, kiss your wife, go to work. And on the way home, pick the kids up. And, okay, we're going to go up to Face to Face right quick. Because that's where you went. You just hung out at Face to Face. So there was a lot of hanging out at Face to Face. Fred started that choir, Motor City Mass.
Yep.
So Marv and the other guys in Fred's band, they were like really busy doing other stuff. So I started coming to Motor City Mass rehearsals and playing drums. I ain't asked nobody because I learned from back in the day, you just did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't nobody playing.
Yeah, you just
and ain't nobody telling you, just get up there and do it. What time rehearsal? And you just keep showing up. So it was me and Jason Jordan, because Jason was the freshman, so he ended up having to be the keyboard player.
Shout out to Peanut.
Shout out to Peanut. So Jason and I would be on those rehearsals, and Marv recorded the album, and so Pages of Life was coming up. You know, well, we know it now as Pages of Life, but it was just, we're having a live record. There was no expectation that this thing was going to be like, boom.
Right.
So, Motor City Mass is actually, for those that are listening, they're like, what is he talking about? He wasn't playing drums. before RFC performed, Motor City Mass performed.
Yeah.
And we did Use Me and this other fast song. I can't remember. So I played Use Me. And that night was just, so that's how I met Marv.
Yeah.
And so Marv and I would, like, he would record, he had his own stuff he was working on, and I would go to his house out in E-Course. And he was like, hey, can you come out here, man, and engineer for me? Because we didn't have gear like we have now. Where you can just kind of do it yourself. And it was just cumbersome for him to have to run to the recording gear and run back over to the drum. So I would go out there and hang out with him for a couple hours, and he would record stuff. I mean, he was the most gracious guy. He would, I would do that for him. I ain't charge him and nothing. I was like, I'm just hanging out. Because for me, I'm learning stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So later on, he'll be like, hey, man, I'm about to order something from Yamaha. What snare you want?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you help me out over there. I'm going to get you a snare. Okay. Hey, man, you helped me out the other day. I'm about to put my Zildjian order in. What you need?
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, he was, man.
Yeah. He would say, hey, man, Luther Vandross is in town. I know his drummer. Let's go.
Yep.
That's when I went. That's the only time I've been to a Luther show. I wouldn't even be interested in a Luther show. Right. I went, and it was like, this is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This thing sounds just like the album. But it was because I was open, for the hang. But then I was always in a mindset of learning something, in all those environments. And so, that's how me and Marv, we'd hang out. And so, as all you know, Marv was the drummer of Straight Gate Church. Yep. So my family and I, we had moved over to Straight Gate Church. I was going there for church. Mm-hmm. I had just got out of the Army. I had just left that church I was at. It just wasn't the same after I came back. And so about the second or third Sunday, Noah Hall comes up to me and says, hey, we're about to go on tour for the record. Would you be interested in playing here when we're not here? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, heck yeah. So my audition was, the choir was going to sing somewhere in Ohio. And so the band was me, Lamont Davis on guitar.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. That's my guy. Stephen Ford. Legend. And that was my first time meeting Steve Ford. I hadn't met him at church. Yeah. I had met him out here at this little gig. And Chris Robeson, he was the organist. We had two bands basically, so he was a part of that band. Okay. So Chris actually lives down here in North Carolina. Shout out to him. Okay. We've worked together since I've been here. So we go to this church and we do Mustard Seed Faith and we do Total Praise and all this stuff. So I meet Steve and he's real nice, cool, whatever. And so I don't get no feedback. Like, you sucked, right? You sweet, nothing, just nothing. So I did the thing. We come back. Then before Sunday come, I get a call from Debbie, something like that. Hey, are you available this Sunday? I'm like, yeah. He said, yeah, they're going to be gone. Yeah, I'll play. So I played for like 3 Sundays. Nobody ever told me I got the job. That's some old, that's some Prince stuff.
Right. That's funny.
So that's how I started playing at the Gate, which was another really, big learning experience. Yeah, yeah. Some great, some not so great. Right. But I learned, and it helped me understand what life as a musician and how you had to play at that level. Right. Dude, you felt like every Sunday you played, your job was online.
Oh, man, look, I got a funny Straight Gate experience.
Okay, tell me.
I was when I came and moved back to Detroit. Obviously I'm jumping in right touring with Fred and guys, which is crazy just in itself, right? Right. But when we home, I'm like, okay, everybody going to Straight Gate, so I'm gonna go to Straight Gate, which was, coming from Unity. They was like, well, we need you to play drums at Unity. I was like, no, I'm gonna go over here.
I'm kind of a little past this.
So for a while, I was just attending straight game. I wasn't even playing.
And that's how I started attending.
But I was approached to play at the church. But it was so crazy because you know that little band pit that they had, you know, that little corner, the stair step thing. Well, there wasn't no room for a percussion player there.
There was no room for us.
Right. So you know where they had me set up?
Where?
Up in the choir stands.
Right above the drums?
So I'm way above. I feel so disconnected. Like I was like, this
ain't working.
This is not working. And then, like you said, nobody gave me any feedback. Nobody ever talked to me about anything.
You had to learn cues. Like with Stephen Ford, if he starts doing this on the organ seat, you dragging.
Oh, yeah.
You got to pick it up.
Yep.
So I never wanted to see him do that. So then you had to watch Bishop because he had these signals with his hands. Mm-hmm. It was so much be going on up there. Yeah. Then you had to watch, you know, Debbie, whatever she was doing.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Out of all the year, or two and some change I played there, I've never played with Fred there.
Yeah.
Because when Fred was home, then all the guys
was home. Yeah.
But during convocations, I've sat behind like Vicky Winans, bunch of people that would come through for convocation because those guys didn't always play convocation every night.
Right.
T.D. Jakes is standing up there. I remember Eddie Long. Like, you just learn all this stuff that's just going on. It'd be a whole lot going on up on the stage. Right. It's more to it than I was just up here playing drums.
Right.
No. And unlike these guys today, we had to wear a suit and tie.
Suit and tie.
And what people didn't see was the lights that were 10 rows back.
Yeah. Hot, man.
Pointing at the stage, but they felt like they were right there.
Yeah, man. Just sweat.
And we could, as the drummers, we could take our jacket off, but we was tied up, wearing hard bottoms. We weren't wearing these old Kenneth Coles and coming to church wearing Jordans and stuff like that. You know, wearing the dunks and all of that.
Yeah. Man,
Bishop didn't play that.
What a time, man.
Yes.
Listen, so that era, man, it was a lot going on. You know, for me, I'm kind of like in a stupor because I'm young. I'm in this new world, just a lot going on. So it's a lot of stuff that I missed. The things that happened around me, I wasn't really paying attention to. But you know, going back to Marvin, you know, the influence that he had on me, he had on us both. Like you were talking about the people in the rooms that he just walked us into, right?
Yes.
And this one particular night that I want to talk about, infamous night.
The night that nobody knows about.
Nobody knows about.
They're about to find out now.
So to set the stage, and I'm going to give it to you to really set it up because, like I said, I was such just in awe. I didn't really know what was going on. But so there was a night where Dennis Chambers was in town. And he was hanging out with Marvin, and Marvin invited us to hang out with him. And Chris Dave happened to be in town. And I'm just going to leave it there for you. So you go ahead and tell the story.
All right, so this was happening. Typical, you know, Marv calls me, hey, man, Dennis is in town. Now, this is my first time meeting Dennis Chambers. Like, this is like meeting one of the 12 disciples or Jesus. Like, I'm going to meet Dennis Chambers again.
Yeah.
So I knew he knew Chris Dave, and this was around the Jazz Festival time. So it was in the fall because that's why Dennis was in town.
Yeah.
Chris, from what I remember, and I could be wrong, Chris was just coming to hang with Marv for his birthday. So he probably told Dennis was coming or whatever.
Right.
So at the time, there was a drum maker named Steve Badalment.
Yes.
He had a company called Innovation
Drums.
And Marv had one of his snares.
Crack Baby. We called the Crack
Baby.
Yep.
That red sparkled used on the Commisioned reunion. Chris Dave has several of his snares. Steve wanted two things. He wanted Dennis to use his equipment.
Yep.
And Dennis had, from what I understand, I think he had one or two of Tony Williams drum sets.
Okay.
And Steve wanted to get his hands on them to restore them, or do something to them.
Yeah.
Okay. So Steve decides he's going to wine and dine Dennis. So we go down to this restaurant called Roma Cafe in Detroit,
Yes,
down in Eastern Market. So it's a very old Italian restaurant. If you walked in there and saw Tony Soprano, you shouldn't be surprised because it was that joint.
That's funny.
So it's me, and Darius reminded me a couple weeks ago that he was there. I don't remember that.
I was there.
So it's me, Darius, Marv, Steve's guy, like one of his workers or whatever, and Dennis, and Chris.
Yep.
And we're all sitting at this big dinner table eating Italian food. Dennis is telling these stories that I can't tell on this podcast.
Man, look.
Of his adventures with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic.
Yep.
And so if you told me, all right, we're going home, I would think me and Darius be like, bro, we met and hung out with Dennis Chambers. Yep. This is it. Chris Dave. And I'm not taking nothing from Chris Dave, but Chris Dave at that time wasn't like Chris Dave we know now.
Right. True.
But everybody knew who he was.
Yeah.
But now he's like Chris Dave.
Yeah.
So Marv says we're going to go back to face and jam. It's like, so we go back, and in the rehearsal studio, Marv had 2 5-piece drum sets set up.
Yep.
For about a good hour and a half. This is the thing. There's no internet back then. Nope. There's no smartphone. I think we had Sprint take a picture phone.
Right.
Who took the picture of Little Richard type phones.
Yep.
Dennis Chambers and Chris Daddy Dave trade 4s for a solid hour and a half.
Yep.
I ain't talking about no breaks, no kiki and a T-hen. They was chopping wood for an hour and a half, trading 4s. And the rest of us was just standing there like, what is happening right now?
And it wasn't no like volunteering to sit down to try to, sub. Like, no.
Yeah, like how they shared now. Like, oh, let me get in. No. This was like a mano to mano, the old school and the new school.
Yep.
Like, let me see what you got.
Yep.
No, let me see what you got. And they wasn't talking no trash and nothing. Wasn't no talking.
No.
It was just hands. 5-piece kits. And it wasn't like a competition. It was just 2 guys communicating musically. Yep. It wasn't that, oh man, Dennis blew them out. No, it was none of that. It was like a moment you will never see.
Yeah.
And it was only less than 10 of us in that room that witnessed it.
Man, all I remember, the thing that I remember the most from that moment was Chris was wearing Dennis out for a while.
Because Chris was coming from that, with doing them African off 12 sevens.
He was wearing Dennis out just until he wasn't. And Dennis came, he pulled something out of his bag, and I was like, okay.
Dennis dropped the gear.
The GOAT.
Yeah, he started ripping. The drum rolls sound like he was ripping paper.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
On a 5-piece kit. It wasn't a whole bunch of cymbals and all. It was just, man. Oh man, I'll never forget that.
And to have that moment not be recorded, because that wasn't the culture back then.
Wasn't the culture.
The
only thing we had mini disc recorders.
Yeah.
And Marvin said he didn't want to leave the room because he didn't want to miss it.
Because
the rehearsal space was separate from the office. And he would have had to leave and unlock the door, turn lights on, find a disc and all of that. He was just like, I'm not leaving.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. That was a fun night, man. Again.
That was epic.
Like, just like I said, I'm young. I'm probably like 20 years old at this point, 21 maybe. Because I can't remember what year that was. But just to be in that room, to be in that room was just special for me. And Marvin was just he was so gracious to even allow me to be there, because he, from what I gather, when I first came on, he wasn't really too happy about me coming on as a percussionist. He wasn't.
He could be territorial.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? He did see. He saw that I had what it took, and then he took the initiative to actually mentor me. Mm-hmm. You know, whether I knew that's what was happening or not, he was mentoring me.
Yeah, you didn't know it.
Yeah,
because and the thing is, he would sometimes would be subtle about it.
Yeah,
or he'll. I would tell you this story. So while they was out Pages and Lifing, because you know the drum set was set up to his schematic,
right?
But you telling me you about to be gone 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm not about to play this like this. I'm gonna play it how I play.
Yeah.
It. So I had broke it down, and at that time I used to play 1 time up and 2 down to the right.
Okay.
And then right in the second position. So something happened. They ended up coming home early for one date or whatever. So they was at church. And he says to me, he scolds me, Why'd you change drum set? I said, you gone. You're not here. You know, I'm not, because he was taller than me.
Yeah, yeah.
So everything was a little like slightly too high.
And he had really long arms.
And he had, right. So whenever I did fill in for him, I would just like raise the snare and, you know, raise the seat. But since you're going to be gone 8 weeks,
yeah,
I'm about to make this my kit.
Yep.
Until you come back and I'll put it back. So like he was like a little heated about it. And I was just like, you know, whatever. Because you're about to be gone again next week.
Right.
Fast forward, tour's over, whatever. They recording the Green album.
Oh, yeah.
And I walk into to the studio and I go in the drum room. He wasn't there. And I just go in there and the drum set was set up 1 up,
Yeah.
2 down.
He stole your joint. that was.
And I was just like,
yeah.
Because part of the reason why I did it, because I had read like in Modern Drummer or some recording magazines, you get better separation, recording wise.
Right.
Doing that.
And yeah, man.
And so to see that, I was just like, oh, okay.
Marvin was he was innovative on how he set his drums. I remember when he started around that time because we were doing the Live in Vegas, which was the Purpose by Design live album.
Yep, he had the 13,
he had that 13 snare. He had
and the 12.
Yeah, man,
on the right. Yeah,
that was so unconventional, man. Nobody was doing that.
Nobody was doing it. Well, there was one person that did it in pop music. His name is Kenny Aronoff.
Okay,
he plays for John Cougar.
Okay.
And that guy has always used the larger tom on the left and the smaller one on the right.
Wow.
But he was the only guy that I know who did that. And then Marv did that for Vegas. Was that the first time? Vegas was before Commisioned.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
So the first time that was that. And I think he used the same configuration at Chicago.
Yeah, that was after Commission too.
That was after. But Commission, he used that Bubinga kit that he had with the long toms, but he also had the larger one first. Yeah. Because he only used the 5-piece on that Commission reunion.
Right. Obviously, because Billiams was playing.
He had Billiams, so he didn't have to carry the load.
Right.
But he had Crack Baby on that. Mm-hmm. And I give you a little secret. Most of those cymbals that was on Billiams' kit were mine.
Okay. Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of Zildjian cymbals.
Right.
And I don't know why I ended up bringing them. I mean, I know Mike has them.
Right.
But I ended up bringing mine and set them up on there.
Man.
So
that's crazy.
That concert. But see, the thing about that concert.
Oh, man.
The run-through rehearsal was the best concert. That's the one they should have recorded and put on the album.
See,
the energy was crazy, and there was nobody in the room.
So this is great perspective because obviously I'm on stage playing, and it's Commissioned, right?
Yep.
I'm like, I've never before that concert and after that concert have never felt that type of nervousness ever. That was the one and only time where my hands were literally shaking.
Because you had that solo.
I had a solo at the top of the show.
At the top of the show.
Are you kidding me?
You were featured. You had the drummer special.
Are you kidding me? and the whole thing, like, and this is again a testament to Marvin McQuitty. Marvin, we went to LA to do a concert, and he was great friends with Alex Acuna.
Oh yeah, he was.
And it wasn't like he came to me and said, "Hey, would you mind if Alex Acuna sits in?" No, he was like, "Darius, Alex Acuna is going to be playing percussion with you on this show." And I'm like,
Alex Acuna is going to be playing with you,
with me, and I'm a huge Alex Acuna fan anyway. I'm like,
so you just stood there and looked at him the whole time.
Man, look, I was, but for the reason why that was significant is because after that show, Alex, he fell in love with me. He said I was a great player, and he actually got me my first and only endorsement. I'm still with Toka Percussion because of Alex Acuna, right?
But that guy put you in front of them people.
And that's what I'm saying. Marvin, he introduced me to so many people that I have relationships still to this day. And that commission reunion was the first show that I had my new Toka Percussion rig.
Oh, that was your new rig.
Right? So, and then Marvin, to top it all off, ordered this big old gong cymbal from Zildjian that I played at the beginning
at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, at the beginning of the show. So, you know, the whole
that intro.
So I'm like, they're doing the slow rumble in the beginning. I'm warming that thing up.
Yeah.
You know, if you play gong, you know, you got to prime it.
Yeah, you got to prime it, yeah, for it sing.
Man, when that hit came, I don't know if it got mixed in good or not. I don't know. But I played it.
You just know you hit it.
But to have a feature at the beginning of the commission reunion concert, are you kidding me?
Yep.
And to this day, people that's one of the first things people talk about when they interact with me. But Marvin had a lot to do with that, and you were there. Tell me about your perspective on that spectacle of an event.
It was major because at that time it was more of like a hell freezes over event because it was like we felt like that would never happen.
Right.
So just to be standing backstage as a PA and doing stuff, and I'm like, this is really happening. Like they're coming back together, you know. It was awesome. It was a lot of weird stuff that happened.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this story. And don't come after me, Mitchell Jones. It was facts. So my job, I was standing behind the curtain right next to Carl the whole show, just in case they need something. So before the show, I went to everybody, hey, what you need to drink? Blah, blah, blah. Everybody said what they needed. So I made sure it was out there or whatever. And if I recall Mitch, he may have said water or nothing or whatever. So the show starts. Y'all going through the set list. I got the set list. I'm watching. And he comes over to me. I don't know what song they were on. Whatever the song is on the album before Cry On. And he walks over to me and says, I need some hot tea. And I said, some tea? Yeah, I need some hot tea. I said, they don't have tea here. Because Straight Gate didn't have a kitchen. Because remember, we used to cater meals all the time. So it wasn't like a pantry.
Right.
Like at Unity, you could go back there. They had everything. They probably had T-bones. They had T-bone steaks back there somewhere. Yeah. But anyway, so I said, there's no tea here. He said, if I don't get no tea, I can't sing the next song. And I just looked at him like, so I had a little PA. I give him a couple bucks. It's a McDonald's. I said, run across the street and get me a tea now. And he's looking. I say, are you still standing here? I said, I need it now. So he comes back with the tea. And it's like, I'm talking about a nick of the time. They on, and people are cheering or whatever. And I'm like, he comes over there, puts it down. That was it.
That's funny.
I'm like, dude.
He literally sips the tea.
That was it.
That's funny.
I was like, dude, we went through all of that. I wanted to go out there and say, you're going to drink this tea. But that's the kind of stuff that happens on the shows, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was nervous because he went out there and killed it. Like, you mean to tell me that little sip.
Right. Hey, that did it for
kept you and I'm talking about for the rest of the concert. He never went back to the tea.
Man, that's funny.
But what was really cool about that night, I was able to get there was a Commisioned fan club at that time. I want to shout out to them. That they were like super fans. Mm-hmm. And they had never met any of the guys in Commisioned. And after the show, I found them because I told them, you know, we were on Facebook and all that. And I was like, hey, after the show, you know, look for me. And I found them all, and I was able to take them in the back for the meet and greet. And when I tell you that not only were they super happy, I was just happy that the guys were so gracious to them. It was just like it's like they had met they met their pop idols. You
Absolutely.
know, they met their it was just, and to me that's what it was all about. You know, the ministry and the relationships and these people on these fan clubs, they share about how the music has affected their lives and all of that. And for them to meet these people, I just thought it was awesome, and I was glad I was able to facilitate that. And the thing is, the biggest thing I learned from Marv is being the person that puts people together.
Yeah.
And I've been that for a lot of people since Marv.
Yeah.
You know, and I got that from Marv, and not wanting no credit for it. You know, I can sit here and tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm not. Man. Because it's not about that. It's about, hey, did you get connected to that guy? Did you get what you need?
Right.
Okay. And it got you to the next level, got you to the next step or whatever. So I'm always about trying to help people out like that. But I do want to mention about Pages of Life real quick.
Okay.
People don't realize Pages of Life, those guys start rehearsing that, I want to say, in the summer. Mm-hmm. They were rehearsing that show as they were recording that album.
Yeah.
They were doing 2 days. Remember that warehouse around the corner?
Yeah.
They were rehearsing in that place, going and back in there, cutting records. And they were like rehearsing 2-3 times a day. So by the time they got to that show, I think I'm 100% accurate about this.
Yeah.
There were no overdubs.
Right. Because you need
what I heard on that album is exactly what I heard on that drum riser. Because by the way, I was sitting behind Marv the whole show. I was his tech.
And if you got a keen eagle eye, you could catch you at one point.
You see me at the end when I stand up.
Yep.
Because I got tired of squatting.
Yep.
But we changed snare drums on that that's a real nice thing. We used a 5.5 by 14 brass, and the rest of the show we used that 13 by 8.
Yeah.
13 by 8. I'm sorry, 13 by 7 maple. Remember Pearl had that maple snare? It was long and it was 13. Everybody was using. That's what we used.
Right.
But yeah, there was no, I had been to recordings in Detroit, and they were like, oh, wait a minute, run the tape back. We did that wrong. Yeah. There was none of that. There's never any of that at a Fred Hammond recording.
Never. And
never.
And I want to give a big shout out to Fred, because people don't understand how much of a work ethic Fred has, and that he instilled in all of us. Like you talk about the Pages and the lead up to the live recording. We talk about Commission Reunion, same thing. We rehearsed 30 days straight. 30 days straight.
Yep. Straight.
Okay.
No days off.
30 days straight. So same thing. Purpose by Design Las Vegas. Crazy preparation. We did live in Chicago. I want to say, in fact, any live concert that I've ever done, we didn't do any like pre-production. Like the one we did in Dallas at the Potter's House, there was some stuff where I was running some stems and stuff. But when I say like we rehearsed so much that there was no way that we would ever need to do any overdubs or start and stop, because it was just ingrained in us. Because
y'all rehearsed like y'all was going to play the game.
Yes.
Like I said about the Commission reunion dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
Y'all went from start to finish And that was the best show. Remember, it was 2 shows. For me, it was 3. It was the rehearsal. Then it was the initial show.
Yep. And then we did
they
another
recorded. And then y'all did another one, but y'all didn't do all the songs.
Right.
But to me, the best one was the rehearsal.
I'm sure.
Because it was just lit. The energy was just, I was like, dang, they should have hit the red button on that.
Yeah.
Because when I heard it the next night, it just didn't have that edge. It's just
right.
It was rocking. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like that rehearsal.
The biggest difference was the first night with people, that tension, and it was you could cut the anticipation with a knife.
Yeah,
it was
because this was a big deal.
Yeah.
You got a legacy group coming back.
Yeah,
you got the mayor in the building. You got other artists in the building.
Right.
You got all this. People done flown in. Versus that rehearsal, y'all ain't had nothing to lose. Y'all was just out there letting it hang out.
Yep.
And that's, to me, should have been captured. But
hey,
hindsight is 2020.
Man, look, there's so much more we could talk about, reminisce about, but that
was a great era.
It was. I do want you to talk about what you got going on now, and the things that you're doing musically right now, and how people can hear what you're doing, find you on social media. Just let us know what you got going on.
So I'm not as active as I used to be. Living in North Carolina and older and all of that. But I do produce under the moniker Radio 77.
Yeah.
I do kind of like chill jazz. I had sent you some of the stuff I do.
Yeah.
I started doing some recording, start building up my little studio, as you can see behind me, back during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so since then I actually had the privilege of doing a Mitchell Jones and David P. Stevens record. It was a record called I Need You. It was a single.
Nice.
Hot record. Should check it out. It came out, I think, 21 or 22. I can't remember now. But I've done some stuff for some jazz artists, just playing drums. But lately, I've just been focusing on just putting stuff out that I like to do. A lot of it is about just leaving your mark on this world. I love playing drums. There was a period of time in an era that I played in that is uncanny, and we made history. But life happened for me. I ended up moving down here, and I wasn't able to continue at the level that I was at. Mm-hmm. And so then, after the reason I came down here wasn't in a reason anymore, then I was like, where do I find myself as a musician? So when I got here, because I wasn't gigging as much, I taught myself how to do recording, because I had a MacBook like everybody else, and I never touched GarageBand, but I started with GarageBand, and then I just accelerated from there and went to Logic.
Yeah. And
now I taught myself how to do it, and I'm still learning. I ain't no John Yash out here.
Hey man,
I ain't no Darius Fentress.
Now,
but
don't do that, man. You shoot.
No, you probably got it way better than me, but. Because you need to give me some tips on recording these drums later. But so that's what I'm doing. So my Instagram is Elo1969. You can hit me up there. I do drum tracks for people, whether it's programming or playing live drums, man. I love it. I do it now for the love.
Yeah.
I don't really care about making no money off of it, but I don't, I ain't working for free.
Right. Hey, okay. Look, he's not working for free. Yeah. But man, that's a great place to be in, man, doing it for the love. Because honestly, if you lose that part, then it's not worth doing.
I wake up and I still got that fire I did when I saw Keith, when it said the drums.
Yeah.
It won't go away.
Yeah.
It's times I want it to go away. And be honest. It's like, why am I still doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I still buying stuff? For what? Because I had to refocus on what success looks like in doing this. It's not just being on stage at the Super Bowl or playing on world tour. Do I still love doing this? And I do. So now that's why I do it.
Yeah.
Now, if opportunities come up to do something, fine. We'll see if it works out. But I'm not looking for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I'm 50 plus. I've had my time. These young guys today, they out here killing it. I mean, these musicians, these young kids today are just on a whole different level.
Yes,
they have YouTube. We had to sit in and move the needle to figure out what somebody was doing. What is Steve Gadd doing right there? Now I can just type in Steve Gadd and I'm watching him do the Asia solo.
Yeah.
So, it's just, it's just a new day and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with my place in it.
Man.
And,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Listen, man,
Yeah.
you, at least for me, you are a very foundational part of my life and my development and my inspiration.
That.
So
That's
if
dope.
anything, man, you've inspired me. So
hey, man,
if that is worth
awesome.
anything, man, you've done that.
It's worth everything.
Yeah.
Because I can remember as a kid going up to guys that I, was looking up to. Hey, can you show me to Keith Staten, Joey Bruce? Always would stop and show me stuff.
Yeah.
And the guys that didn't, I would say to myself, when I get to that position, I will always take time to show somebody something.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I do.
Yeah.
I will always take time to share because of what Keith and Joey did.
Yeah.
I still talk to Keith. I still talk to Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you got
awesome,
to, man. You got to give it back. I mean, I learned the pocket and I stayed in it. And I know my lane.
Yeah.
And, that was beat into us by Brooks.
Yeah.
It was beat into us by Fred, pocket.
Yeah.
It's a little different now.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking it. It's different.
Hey.
But that's the era I came up in. It's like you had to be locked in or you wasn't working, bro.
Hey, trust me, it's still like that. It's still
he
like
was
that.
not working.
It's still like that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, the flash.
That's
the
what
flash,
it's about.
The flash is great. You need it. You got to have it. But man, if you can't pocket, man, then you ain't gonna be working a lot. I'm gonna just tell you.
You're gonna be working a lot.
Yeah.
You're gonna be YouTubing. That's
exactly. Which is good for some people.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. But I just love the craft. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always maintaining what I got. I didn't want to be that guy that's 50, 60, and an opportunity comes and I can't even play the pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I still practice right here in this room on this drum set that God blessed me with. God has blessed me with a lot of stuff that I never thought I would have. Like, if you told me 10 years ago I'd be recording stuff, and I'd be like, nah, I'll just play drums.
Yes, sir. Man,
God is good.
That's a blessing, man. I'm glad that you still doing it. And man, it's an inspiration for all of us out here, man, just to never give up on the dreams and never to give up on that passion. And man, even everything that we talked about, man, it's just allowed you to live a life that is really like not a lot of people can live, So
yeah. Cause I mean, I've had experiences. We didn't get into all the stories that, man, like that happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I met that guy.
Right.
And I was never a guy that took a bunch of pictures and would be like starstruck.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff is just in my head.
Yeah, yeah. Which is great.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
So,
well, man, Earl, thank you, man. Guys, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do it. Every week, I'm trying to bring you a new perspective. I'm trying to introduce you guys to new people who have such great stories. And Earl is one of those guys who has just been around in my life, who has seen and done a lot. And I just hope that you've been blessed by what he's had to share today. Again, check him out on his social media and check his music out. What's the single that you just released?
The last single I released was called You Dig under Radio 77.
Yes, sir.
You can also look up 3 a.m. under Radio 77. You can look up I Need You by Mitchell Jones and David P. Stevens.
Yes, sir.
That was the latest stuff that I've done.
Absolutely. So y'all do that. Please support Earl, and please support this channel here on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. And guys, until next time, stay encouraged, be inspired, and to be the best that you can be, and watch how your life will be enhanced by it. Until next time, y'all, in the studio with me, Darius Fentress. I'll see y'all. Peace.
God bless you, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Peace.